afternoon or evening, depending on what side of the pond you're on, and welcome to a special live reaction edition of Across the Pitch, where myself, Phil Kennedy, and Aaron Ayres have just finished watching Arsenal defeat Manchester City, breaking a 9-match losing streak at the Emirates Stadium, and more importantly, keeping their hopes of reaching Europe alive as they're now on to the FA Cup final. What did you think about that match, Aaron?
Well, first off, it's at Wembley, and I can't remember the last time we beat Man City, but all right, I'm a pessimistic Arsenal fan. I always have been, and going into this, I don't think even the most optimistic Arsenal fan would have predicted this result. It was a solid, resolute, well-planned team effort to beat a very good Man City side who just seemed off their game today.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for mentioning that. Yes, it was at Wembley and not at the Emirates Stadium, but Arsenal was listed as the home team. But like you said, I was optimistic that Arsenal could maybe pull off a victory here and advance to the final round because realistically they needed this game more than Man City did. This was their last lifeline into the Europa League. What I'm happy about is they came out, they played like it. Not only did they win, they came away with a clean sheet. And Emilano Martinez, since stepping in for Bernd Leno, he has just been, he was man of the match, in my opinion.
No, I'd say Aubameyang was because of those brilliant 2 goals. One which was just an amazing finish off the side of his boot, to beat Edison, the Man City goalkeeper. But the other one was just salt in the wounds, I swear. When it went between his legs, he just sort of that was the only target he had because Edison was so huge, and slid it between his legs. I'm looking at the stats now. So get this, okay? Arsenal 2, Man City 0. Arsenal had 4 shots on target. Man City had 16 shots, 1 on target. Wow. Remarkable, absolutely remarkable. Now, I have to say at this point, I think the apprentice has become the master. Arteta, formerly the assistant manager there at Man City underneath Pep Guardiola, really showed up Pep today in terms of a game plan. Now, I want to go back and have a look and have a chat about the Liverpool game. Arsenal were pretty lucky against Liverpool. Mm-hmm. But then again, there was that high press. They pressed against the defenders, usually a very resolute Virgil van Dijk, looked very flustered. And after seeing a very similar game plan against Man City today, I'm thinking, hang on a second, this is the game plan. It's not your flashy Wenger keep ball era stuff. It's just a very solid defensive team followed up by a very high press. I've got to say, it's highly impressive. I'm very impressed with Mikel Arteta.
You make an excellent point because, Aaron, how many times in the past 2 years have we come away from an Arsenal match saying, Arsenal outplayed their opponent, but they're the ones that made the bigger errors that led to goals. Yep. And that's exactly what we're seeing now is Arsenal is kind of sitting back and letting the other team be the one to make the errors. And now we're seeing it doesn't matter if it's Man City, it doesn't matter if it's Liverpool, it doesn't matter if it's Virgil van Dijk. They're all human and they're going to make errors. And, when I play billiards, I always kind of say that the best way to win at billiards is to let the other guy beat himself. And, sometimes I'll win 3-4 games in a row just waiting for the other guy to knock in the 8 ball early or, kind of play defense. And I think that's kind of what Arsenal is doing is they're to take another billiards term and one that will resonate in England, they're letting the other team snooker themselves a bit.
I want to go back to something that you mentioned in the chat when we're watching this. And I was at a loss as to explain how this Arsenal team has improved using the same squad. They look more resolute in defence, as I said, and they're not keeping the ball, but they're using the ball more effectively. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said they're not working within a system, they're working within the players' strengths. And I think you're 100% right with that, Phil.
I think that was the biggest problem with Unai Emery. And even if you go back to what Matt was talking about so often with Chelsea last year, where they had who's the guy that smokes a lot? Mauricio Sarri.
Right, Sarri,
and so Matt would just go on and on that Mauricio Sarri is trying to fit square pegs into round holes, and he wouldn't alter his system to fit Chelsea's personnel. I think we saw a lot of that with Unai Emery, with Arsenal, where he just wanted to play his plan. Arteta has come in and said, okay, these are the chess pieces I have to play with. And he's kind of built his strategy around what he thinks is going to work. He knew that maybe there were some deficiencies at the back line. So he's saying, well, let's not necessarily park the bus per se, but let's play a counter-attacking style and kind of wait until the other club makes that bad turnover or makes a bad pass at the neutral zone, if you will, and then get your attack on there. And that's been really effective, where they've just been picking their spots to attack instead of, like you said, with Wenger, it was really all possession, always be on attack. Emery came over and tried to kind of play that same style, where Arteta, like you said, he's completely flipped the Arsenal game plan into a new era.
It is. And this is really interesting. I've been following Arsenal for about 20 years now, and I've never seen Arsenal play like this. But there's an old refrain you'll hear around the bleachers, the stands, the terraces, if you will, and that's 1-0 to the Arsenal, because Arsenal weren't always a flashy team. I'm not saying we're going back to that 1-0 to the Arsenal era, but it's a more pragmatic style.
I think that that's perfect that you mentioned that, because that's exactly what I was going to say. Is I think that they're finding a balance somewhere in between that 1-0 to the Arsenal and the flashy Arsene Wenger style, and like you said, they're playing to their strengths, and they're allowing the personnel they have to do what they do best.
Now, as for Man City, I want to go and have a chat about, just before halftime, there was a very animated conversation on the Man City coaching bench between the assistant coach, who Matt says looks like a pizza guy. You want this pizza or not, Pep, you know? And honestly, it really looked like they were out of ideas. They were out-pepped. Pep was out-pepped by Arteta, and it was remarkable to see. And I just kind of, like, you saw Pep on the sideline. He was sitting against one of the advertising hoardings towards the end there, and he just looked resigned to the fact that Man City weren't going to win this game. What is going on there?
Well, I think that, maybe it was just one of those things where we're, like you said, Arteta kind of is in Pep's playbook. Obviously, he spent years working alongside of him. And, I think maybe this is just one of those things where he kind of came with the game plan to beat Pep, and like you said, it's just they didn't seem to have any answers for it. Maybe it wasn't what they were expecting. Maybe they were expecting that Arsenal was going to come out on full attack, and kind of caught it by surprise.
Yeah, but I still find it remarkable that, I wouldn't say, they're playing by the same playbook today, but, Man City has an embarrassment of riches. How Pep can just sit on the sideline like that and not instigate a change in play, or, he did bring on late Phil Foden, who's been on fire of late. But even so, it just seemed like a like-for-like substitution. It's like he wasn't chasing the game. It was just like, all right, we're done here. We're out. Is this the end of Pep? Is he out? I know he's got one more year in a contract, but...
Well, that's going to ultimately come down to what happens in the Champions League next month. And I think at the end of the day, that's probably what it comes down to. I mean, we talked about how important this game was for Arsenal, that this was the most important game left on Arsenal's schedule. They will now play one more important game that they were able to advance to by winning this one. But But this was Arsenal's season right here. And this is actually the point that I want to wrap up with is to go back to what you said about Aubameyang is your man of the match, which, certainly nobody's going to argue with that idea. But here's a guy who has 24 goals across all competitions. It's second consecutive 20-plus goal season. This is a guy that we have to keep. We weren't going to keep Aubameyang if we don't make Europe. I think that's pretty much a foregone conclusion. So realistically, this was a game we needed to win to be able to keep this guy on our roster. Now we need to go and beat the winner of the Chelsea-Man United game. That will put us towards the Europa League, and then hopefully sign Aubameyang. And this was what I wanted to wrap up, was to ask you, do you foresee that the Aubameyang-Lacazette tandem will remain intact next season for Arsenal?
Oh, man. My heart says yes. My head says I hope so.
If you'd have asked me, asked me a month ago, I would have said no. But I think over the last 4 or 5 games that they've been playing together, we're starting to see that chemistry. We're starting to see that picture that you sent me a few months ago of them kind of doing that, the bow at each other after they link up on a goal. And I really hope we see more of that for a few years to come.
I think so. I think Arteta is showing that he has a game plan, that he's got a way to move the club forward. I think he has Aubameyang as a linchpin in that game plan. So I hope they keep him. Whether or not he decides to go elsewhere, well, I guess that comes down to dollars, really, doesn't it? Or pounds, as it be. Can we look forward to tomorrow's game real quick? It is Manchester United, who are probably the form team in England right now, versus Chelsea, who are having a bit of a rough trot of late. They haven't looked great. We'll probably get Matt on this call tomorrow for his analysis after the game. What do you think about that? Which way is that going to go?
Looking at it from the outside looking in, I would have to say that like Matt said, and like you said, Manchester United is the form team, so you'd kind of have to favorite them a bit. Looking at it from an Arsenal perspective, I would rather see Chelsea win because Chelsea, they're kind of already locked into the top 4. Manchester United is not. So we're going to run into a situation where the final would mean more to Manchester United than it would to Chelsea.
Good point. I see you going towards Manchester United, unfortunately. Sorry, Matt. Sorry, Chelsea fans.
All right, Aaron. Well, let's plan on doing this again after tomorrow's game. And this has been fun. And, it's just greght to be able to get on the call and say that Arsenal won a meaningful game.
Doesn't it feel good? Oh, yes, baby.
Come on, you Gunners.
Come on, you Gunners. Let's go, boys.